my name is Tony. There should have been a law that said every red-blooded heterosexual male must have a girlfriend who looks just like Linda Hayden circa 1971, or who actually is Linda Hayden circa 1971. Granted, based on the evidence from Blood on Satan's Claw, you'd soon end up sacrificed to her black satanic master and your immortal soul fricasseed in the scorching inferno of eternal damnation. But I think it would have been worth it, a reasonable price to pay. For Linda, who may not have been the greatest actress the UK ever produced, was transcendently beautiful, drop-dead gorgeous, sexy, erotic, and aesthetically fantastic to peruse in the nude. What's that? Your inner feminist is screaming something about me being a sexist, misogynistic, objectifying pig? Yeah, well, I'm flattered. But enough of my good points for now. Let's move on. Blood on Satan's Claw is a rural horror flick, part of a short-lived subgenre dubbed folk horror. Most notably, the genre includes Robert Hardy's acclaimed The Wicker Man, which, like Blood on Satan's Claw, features an isolated grassroots agricultural community feudally structured and defined by Christian religion, lingering paganism and blind superstition. The film was produced and distributed by Tygon British Film Productions. Tygon, under the entrepreneurial Tony Tenser, were responsible for some significant genre-enhancing gems, such as The Sorcerers, Witchfinder General, and The Creeping Flesh. Tygon and others, like Amicus, were born of a desire to emulate the success of Hammer. Tygon's aim was to develop and whack out low-budget homegrown product which looked slicker and more expensive than it actually was, and to distribute exploitation-flavoured fare made by external producers, which is how the world ended up with absurd pornographic trash like Double Agent 73, starring an imposing lady called Chesty Morgan, who had a 73-inch bust. Two unique selling points, I guess. Three, if you take into account one of her giant tits is home to a hidden camera. Possibly not the ideal date movie. Travis Bickle might disagree though. The original brief given to writer Robert Wynne Simmons was to come up with 3 stories for a portmanteau-style horror flick like the ones Amicus were much enamoured of churning out. Instead, he opted to incorporate the 3 outlines he had into one screenplay. Piers Haggard was given the task of fleshing out the script and directing, and is certainly the best screen work he ever did. His filmography reads like a litany of screaming duds, so Blood on Satan's Claw stands out somewhat. Set in a remote English countryside backwater in the early 1800s, young Ralph is ploughing a field and unearths a weird skull, complete with one surviving eyeball and a patch of fur on it. Whilst he hot-foots it to return with a visiting judge and scholar played by Patrick Wymark, as Peter Cushing was unavailable and Christopher Lee too pricey for the budget, the skull has vanished. The judge assumes Ralph to be a superstitious local yokel dimbulb and mistaken over what he only thought he saw. Meanwhile, the young master of the locale, Peter, brings his latest squeeze, Rosalind, home to meet his aunt. Put to sleep in the old attic room, Rosalind has a frenzied breakdown during the night and attacks Peter's aunt. Next day, as the judge has her committed to an asylum, Peter glimpses the hideous claw that has grown in place of one of her hands as she is being carted away. Peter, believing something evil is afoot, no fool he, enters the attic room in the dead of night only to be attacked by a monstrous creature with a furry claw. He hacks at the claw with a knife. The judge crashes in to find him alone, and he's only gone and succeeded in severing his own hand. What a Burke. Ultimately, the suggestion made by the narrative is that young Ralph has excavated a bit of the devil, who is trying to put himself back together again. Maybe he was dismembered and skinned in a random farming accident, ploughed the field and scattered. His jigsaw-like reassembly is achieved by manipulating the village children into forming a cult under the leadership of Angel Blake, the luminously stunning Linda Hayden. The kids immerse themselves in performing rituals in a ruined local church and butchering some of the local pre-teens who aren't in the gang. They all start manifesting furry patches of skin on their bodies, which are flayed off and gifted to the Dark One to make him whole, a sort of satanic patchwork quilt of skin and flesh to put some meat on his ancient bones. The devil gets himself together for the climax, in which the judge intervenes at the ceremony of resurrection and impales him on a large wobbly cross-like sword-stroke lance thing. And the evil is defeated. The end. Hurrah! Yeah, no, it doesn't sound up to much, but trust me, it is way better than it sounds, and here's why. There was a bright sort of cardboard splendour to the Hammer films, a glossy look of saturated, dreamlike unreality that complemented their fantastical nature. Satan's Claw doesn't look or feel like that. It's darker, heavier, doomier. The bucolic locations give it a more realistic visual composition, mostly overcast with a promise of bad weather to come. Also, themes of corruption, hypocrisy, superstition and scapegoating thread their way through the plot as witches and the devil are blamed for the ills that befall. In this case, supernatural and demonic forces are in fact very real. The judge, a man of learning, quick to dismiss the dark mutterings and crucifix clasping of simple folk, simpletons really, soon comes around to the notion of evil work being perpetrated by children as the instruments of ancient evil. There's a haunting quality to some of the events that will stay with you long after the credits have rolled. Child murder is an emotive subject, perhaps even more so when perpetrated by other children. Satan's Claw whipped up some controversy at the time of its release for several valid reasons. Nubile sexuality and nudity are utilized to evoke unsettling sensations in the viewer. When Angel Blake discards her clothing and attempts to seduce the local reverend in the local church, the scene has an erotic power that is quite unnerving. The censors worried that Linda was 17 at the time, and more so that the character she was playing was felt to be even younger. The scene, if it had not been a key moment in the telling of the story and non-gratuitous and not included for prurient appeal, narrowly missed being cut. The reverend resists her advances, but Angel accuses him of rape, and her father and the community are all too ready to believe it. It's villagers with pitchfork time, folks. So much for faith in men of religion. Is it any wonder that the devil has the upper hand, or claw? Another contentious scene is particularly distressing. Kathy, played by former Doctor Who companion Wendy Padbury, is the sister of a boy murdered by the cult. She is forced into being a sacrifice in a satanic ritual. Padbury does a fine job of conveying an impression of real fear and panic. Her clothes are stripped from her, revealing a patch of fur on her back. She is raped and murdered, and the furry skin cut from her body. It's a challenging sequence to watch, and I believe the cuts she receives are not the only cuts to be imposed here. Linda Hayden is a revelation as Angel Blake. She certainly looks angelic, but her beatific appearance is just that, an appearance, a facade concealing the fact that she is a willing servant of evil, corrupt through and through. Although she was not the first choice for the role, that was Tamara Ustinov, daughter of Peter, Hayden was under contract to Tony Tenser, so she got the part. Ustinov was cast as the hapless Rosalind, the one who got a claw hand and whisked away to the booby hatch for her pains. This was all for the best, because I can't praise the work of Linda Hayden enough here. It is a rare example of perfect casting. Okay, you could argue that I'm biased, but if you watch the film and truly objectively disagree, then I'm quite prepared to tell you to fuck off. You'd be wrong. Entitled to your opinion, yes, of course, but wrong. It goes without saying there are flaws. For example, the climactic confrontation between the judge and the devil, filmed in slow motion for some reason, is a bit of a letdown. Old Nick looks like a Saturday afternoon TV wrestler wearing a hood and fur coat, and a risible, cheapo latex horror mask. It doesn't equate the type of payoff it should, even a little bit laughable, which impacts adversely on the carefully constructed and sustained atmosphere the narrative has built up. Some of the performances are quite amateurish and a tad over the top here and there, and the dialogue is a bit turnip-headed. The local doctor tells the judge,
"You come from the city.
Yet he knows.
Cannot know the ways of the country."
Why can't he? What ways are those? The way of the yokel? It's all somewhat stilted and Wurzel Gummidge style-y. However, with its depictions of the cruelty of children visited upon children counterpointed with the cruelty of adults and their mob mentality when faced with a crisis or affront, they don't need much encouragement to get out the pitchforks and torches to hunt the kids down like dogs, and the creepy Mayday type ritual set amidst flowers and greenery. It's a singular experience with a distinctly eerie resonance that lasts. The action is backed up by a haunting, folky score by Mark Wilkinson, which is a quality piece of work and will stay in your head. The cinematography by Dick Bush effectively captures the English landscape in suitably evocative tones and textures. Dick went on to do some superb lens work on William Friedkin's grim adventure noir masterpiece Sorcerer. Incidentally, Satan's Claw was Patrick Weinmark's last film. He died 2 weeks before it was released. Blood on Satan's Claw was made on the cheap and reportedly didn't yield much, if any, impact at the box office. It has no groundbreaking special effects or CGI or big movie star actors or fawning critics to slam it in the faces of the public. Not a money spinner then. However, it is ranked alongside Witchfinder General and The Wicker Man as one of a standout triumvirate of British folk horror classics, and deservedly so. That makes it worthy of attention. As for Linda Hayden, well, she was never going to be my girlfriend. A great pity for me, for her, not so much. She shacked up with Robin Asquith of Confessions of a Window Cleaner fame instead. That really doesn't make me feel any better. If anything, even more worthless. Thank you for your time and attention, and I mean it most sincerely, folks, when I say it is appreciated. If you feel so inclined, please feel free to subscribe, click like, or leave a comment. Meanwhile, here's a song called Devil and the Deep Blue Sea.
Going from north, settle for less, make for the east, head for the west, doing your worst, trying my best, keeping the faith, the hell with the rest. The distance between you and me, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. What we are, what we wanna be, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Welch on the bet, honor the deal, what you can get, what I can feel, feather your nest, make an appeal, put you to shame, I'm keeping it real. The distance between you and me, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. What we are, what we wanna be, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Disreputable veneer reveals with starkness the darkness, reaching out for the darkness. The distance between you and me, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. What we are, what we want to be, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. The masses you despise won't take it endlessly, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea.